All right. Good evening. How's it going? And welcome again to another live that we do. And wherever you're watching us, I am trusting that you're doing well. And tonight, I'm bringing you my co-hostess out from Kapstadt and me from Johannesburg. Hey, how's it going? Well, we can't hear you. We can see that you're talking, but we can't hear you. I am trusting that the people can also hear me. If you can hear me, give me
And now,
some thumbs up if you're watching. Awesome stuff. I can hear you there. How's it going?
all right, all right. I'm very excited to be here tonight. I missed last
Yeah.
because, unfortunately, the wave 5 got me and I had a bit of COVID. So unfortunately, I missed that, but I'm really excited to be back.
Amazing stuff. Your sound is still a little bit soft. I trust that it's going to improve as we go along. But welcome. This is Pass It On a Thursday night. And wherever you are watching us, I see a couple of people, they're already telling us where they are watching us from. So, wherever you are watching us from, in the comments, on whatever channel you are, just let us know where you are watching us from. So great to have you around. Thank you for making this time. And tonight, we are going to be talking about something that I think a lot of people don't really talk about, and that is, I think we're in the buzz of student accommodation. A lot of people are kind of like jumping into it. We've been at it for a while now, and we've been doing it. And Rita, she's been steering this thing for us since the beginning. And yeah, tell us, Rita, all about student accommodation. By the way, you got a book that's coming out as well.
Yes, I'm just like proofreading the final version, and then it's going to go out. So,
Cool. When do we expect it?
um, I think it should still come out in June, towards the middle to the end of June.
Right. So we can say that the book is going to be officially available 1 July. Should we say
Yes,
that?
let's do it. 1 July, it's there.
1 July, your book. What is it? Your book is going to be about student accommodation, right? So just give us a brief description of what the book will be all about. And yeah, we still want people to go and get the book themselves so that they can read. But why should one go and buy your book?
So the book is really about, I try to put as much of everything that you need to possibly know about student accommodation. From the type of demand that there is, where the universities are, where to find the students, how to market to them, how to do your leases, how to manage them. Every single thing that you as a beginner property investor would want to know about student accommodation is in there. How to set up your house, all of that. And then at the end of the book, I also gave a few case studies, mistakes that I made along the way, and the lessons that I learned from that, and how you can avoid those mistakes, and really be successful on the first try of doing student accommodation. So that is the book. So it's an educational one, I hope, for everybody out there. And the mission for me has always been to get as many people into student accommodation as possible. And that's what the book is all about as well.
Cool. I like that. So well done on writing the book. I'm an author as well. I know it's time consuming to write a book. I think a lot of people don't realize that. But not only is it time consuming in the doing part, but it's also time consuming in the downloading of the information from your head, but also a little bit of time consuming in getting the IP in your head, right?
Yeah.
Because you were doing, and because you were doing, you were able to grasp all of this information, and thus now you are able to actually to write it. and share the learnings and for others to learn about it. But tonight we want to cross pollinate a little bit between sourcing and student accommodation. And so, what is student accommodation, right? When we're talking about student accommodation, what is student accommodation? If you have to put it in a one-liner.
I mean, student accommodation is it can be anything where a student, somebody that is busy studying in a tertiary institution, is living on in a property, either at your own property in a back room that you might have, or a flat or a bachelor's that you might have, all the way to you know, almost like a student race setup where you have a big building with students in it. But in a nutshell, it's really where somebody that's still studying, um, as their main, you know, activity for the day, I would say, where they live, basically.
Yeah. And the other topic that we want to discuss is about student. We said student accommodation on one side, and we want to talk about sourcing as well. So we want to cross pollinate these two together today. And in your view, last week I ran solo last week, so I spoke about sourcing quite a bit. But in your view, what is sourcing?
So sourcing is where um, you find a suitable property for a specific purpose that you then present to an investor, um, and you present it in a way that it you can showcase the purpose of the property, as well as the return for the investor. So it's not really for you know, selling a property to a person that's going to live there, the people wanting to buy a family home. That's for me more like a normal estate agent. But for
Yeah.
me, sourcing goes directly to investors. So people that want to rent out a property or flip it, or someone that's trying to make money from a property. And for me, that is really what sourcing is. So you are working for the purchaser, not for the seller, like a normal estate agent would.
So I remember the first time I heard the name sourcing. I was in class. Me and you, we went to the school Legacy, the Robert Kiyosaki school that they had in South Africa. But that school is no longer there today. And the first time I heard sourcing, it was very strange for me. And I'm going to ask you of your experience on how you perceived it. But I just couldn't comprehend the idea that someone could pay you to go and look for opportunities. And because maybe my background was very much around, I do everything on my own. So why should I pay someone else to do something? And I later learned that, oh, okay, so there is these sourcing people, and it's actually a profession. You can make a living out of sourcing. And in the UK, there is people that are called sourcing agent. It's a profession. Where did you start hearing the term sourcing? Your first time ever? For me, it was in that class. I'd never heard it before.
Yeah, definitely in that class. But I think also it was in the past. I mean, I was still very green at that stage, and it's like I was like, and you know what? It was this magical term that people use, sourcing agents, and I was like always like, where can I find one of these people? Because I don't know how to find these deals and how to negotiate them. And I was scared. Even until very recently, I was so scared to negotiate on a deal. And I was like, yo, if I can just find one of these magical people, can they have a board around their necks that they are a sourcing agent? Um, you know, and I was literally in the beginning looking for these people to help me because I had access to funding and I wanted to invest. I wanted to make some money, but I didn't know how to get to the properties and to the right properties. And after months and months of looking, I was struggling and I was like, can somebody just introduce me to a sourcing agent? Who are these people and where are they? So yeah, that was my first experience, and I remember it sounded so like such a magical thing to be.
Yeah. So the other word that I can affiliate to sourcing is I see a lot of people tend to do this these days is being a runner.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, so I can come to you and I can run your errands. So what do you need done? Do you want your kids to be dropped off at school? Do you want to your father-in-law to be taken to hospital? Do you want to me to buy your groceries? And maybe groceries is a bad example because all of these big retailers have just created deliveries, right? So something that can be done that you need someone else to do, and you can pay the next person to do it. And running is actually becoming a profession now. You know, where you can run errands for someone else. I mean, I can't run errands to wash your hair because I can't take your hair and then bring it back. But anything else I can. So which is quite cool. But the bottom line is that if there's a service and someone is paying that service for someone else to do it. Now, Rita, I want to bring in the conversation of student accommodation. I did say that I want to marry the two. And student accommodation, it sounds like it's a specialized skill. Um, I've seen people that have gone into student accommodation and they've said they've lost lots of money and they don't want to do student accommodation. And I remember when you started student accommodation, when you were starting off to find when we were doing the discovery of student accommodation, we were saying, TJ, let's do student accommodation. I was like, nah, let's not do that because of my preconceived ideas of what student accommodation is. But now that we're in it for a couple of years, we've got a strong team. How many beds now are we managing across board?
459 we are on now officially.
Right. So we're just below 500 beds that we're managing.
Yeah.
Um, some of these beds are ours. Some of these are our partners' beds, and but all of it, you've got a team behind now that is supporting you, and every day in Cape Town, in Poch, um, PE now. There is a team that is working throughout, and anyone else who is looking for the services of student accommodation, not to manage it, they can then come through to you and you can be able to manage this very well. But now, the question that I want to ask here is if if lots of people have gone into it and they've lost money, now you've gone in and you have now put in the process of making money out of it by managing it for other people. You kind of like being a runner because you're managing what other people are not happy to do. And for you, you didn't start off by just running my student house. There was a bit of learning here, right? How long did it take for you to actually understand student accommodation? And I'm going to stop there for now.
I think it takes a bit of time, and as you kind of as I went through the first couple of months, you kind of you have to go through a cycle of a year, because everything you do in student accommodation is very cyclical and very seasonal. So, for instance, we would have in the beginning of the year, you have to find these students and you have to place them. Okay, so you have to do the whole intake process. Then you have to know how leases work. You need to know how and you have to set all of that stuff up. And the way you set it up is going to determine your success, how easy or how difficult it's going to be for you for the rest of the year. and you only get one shot at it, right? You can only do that once, and if you do it right, you're going to sleep, and you're going to make money, and you're going to be happy. If you do it wrong, you're going to cry, and you're going to have so much pain, because the volumes that you're dealing with is a problem. All right,
Mm.
so if you make a small mistake, it's actually a smaller mistake across multiple people, and that compounds and makes the issue actually so much worse. So that's the beginning of the year. Then during the year, you're going to find all kinds of issues coming up: neighbors complaining, students stealing each other's food, and whatever else it is that might come up during the year, and you're going to need to be able to know how to navigate that. And if you set up your house correctly from the beginning, then these things become small, and you've got your processes and your answers. If this happens, then that. If this happens, then that. So you can set all of that up. End of the year, again, during the year, there's a certain time when you have to start looking for properties. And guys, that is now, which is why I'm so excited about this whole sourcing and student accommodation, because right now is the time when you have to look for properties. And then people will say, but it's so far away. Intake is only in February 2023, but now is the time. Because you might have to convert something, you will have to get furniture, you will have to market the property, you need to show it to the parents in the right time of the year when they're going to be out looking for places. And if you miss the intake, you're going to be empty, or you're going to really, really struggle to have any students in your property if you miss the intake. So very important to be on a schedule of exactly in this month to that month, this is what I need to do. And you can plan your year around that, and you can be very successful if you do things at the right time. It's very simple concept, but you need to do it at the right time. And you have to go through that first cycle of learning that we went through, and the second year you get new problems and you refine. Third year you get new problems and you refine, and as you go along, you really just add to that. Every university that you deal with is different, all the rules are different, but at least if you know there are certain rules and these are the people that you need to look for to find out what those rules are, then it just makes things easier, throughout the period while you're busy sourcing or looking for these properties.
Mm. You speak a lot about property management, the do's and the don'ts of property management, student management, not property management, student management.
Yeah.
But I want to bring you a little bit closer to the conversation of sourcing the student accommodation property, because I almost want to say that student accommodation or sourcing, there's a foundation that one needs to follow to be able to source a property. Can anyone just go wake up one day and like, hey, I'm gonna source a property? Let alone be it student accommodation. Let's just talk level one. Can anyone wake up and be a sourcing agent or source properties? How difficult is it? Me and you and our other partner, Terence, we run a sourcing business as well. That is called the Exit Keys. Can anyone do it?
Um, they can try, but there's actually a lot of legislation around it. Um, there's there's learning that you need to do. You need to know the maths, how to do the calculations of is it a profitable property or not. You need to
Yeah.
know what are the expenses that's going to be involved in this property, because remember, you are selling this or presenting it to an investor that wants to make money out of it. So you're going to run around wasting a lot of your time if you're not on top of your numbers. You need to know these are going to be the expenses, this is going to be the income, um, and why, and the strategy that's going to work for that property. You might be able to flip a property, or you might be able to do multi-lets or students, but you need to know what it is that you can do with that property. So, excuse me. And you need to be able to present it, and do a proposal to these investors to make sure that you don't just run around looking for a million properties, wasting your time. And you might have a good deal, but if you can't present it in the right way to the next person, they're not going to see what you see. And they're not going to pay you what you deserve to be paid for that property. So I definitely think anybody can do it, but with the right education and the right knowledge on how to do it. Otherwise, you're gonna just waste your time. And petrol's so expensive these days, guys. Like, don't waste your money on petrol for nothing if you can't sell something.
Yeah. By the way, this is Pastor John. I'm speaking to Rita Van Rooyen today. You all know that me and him are business partners. We've been at it for a bit. We've got a couple of companies together that we run, and my student house being one of them, M5 Property Addicts being another one, Exit Keys is another business. And today we're talking about sourcing, particularly sourcing of property that is suitable for student accommodation. And Rita specializes very much in student accommodation. She's even writing a book around it, which is coming out on the 1st of July. Whoop, whoop. And I want to dive into the conversation of, anyone can do this, but I want to bring it home to you, Rita, in terms of how many properties have you personally, or maybe in our business, have we bought properties from a sourcing agent before?
Yeah, I mean, we definitely did that. I still do, because these days, we've got so many things happening that I don't have the time to go out there and go through 30, 40 properties, because that's sometimes what you have to do to get that one diamond in between all the other lumps of glass. So it takes time, it takes effort, and a lot of times I don't have that time to go through that. So now it's just much easier for me, and I've got good relationships now with some sourcing agents that they know exactly what I want to see. So we went through a few rounds. I'm like, yeah, I don't like this one because of that. And now they know exactly what I'm looking for. So I know 9 out of 10 times when that person brings me a property, that it's going to be a good one. And now it's just putting in an offer, and obviously I still go and check out the property myself, and putting in an offer, and checking that everything is the way it's supposed to be, because you must always do your own diligence as well. But even now, I still buy properties from sourcing agents.
Hmm. So, what's been the most, I want to say, what's the most expensive property or sourcing fee that we have paid for um, to buy a property? And why would you pay someone else that much money for the property? Is there a deal that you can maybe talk to where we paid a sourcing fee? Um, Maybe let's talk about that other building. You remember that building that we bought for uh, around about 5 million, and then we ended up buying it for 2.1. So it was a 20-unit building, but we ended up buying 10 units instead of the 20.
Oh,
And and there was a sourcing agent that presented that deal to us, and the value of that property was sitting on 8 million, right? And we ended up paying 50% discount on that. We didn't know about this property, and they came through to us, and we paid around about, I think it was 60, 70,000, right? Remember, right?
yeah, yeah,
Now,
I remember.
now, now, the question there that I want to ask of you is, why would we pay 70,000 rand for sourcing fee? Um, compared to us going out there and look for the property. I'm just trying to show people here that there is value in people that are called sourcing agents.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for me, the reason why I would pay that is because obviously, if it's a property where you're getting a huge discount below market value, like in that instance where you're paying 50% of market value, you don't find that every day. So it's really something that if you can then buy it and sell it, you're still going to make so much money, on that deal, that in the greater scheme of things, in terms of the numbers, the rental profit that it's going to give you, the actual equity because you're paying below market value, when all of those and those things kind of combine, that that determines how much you feel comfortable with in terms of paying, on a sourcing fee. And I always tell people as well that, you know what, if you're just going to send me a link that says a property 24 link, here's a property. Yeah, okay, so what? Um, it also depends on how much due diligence did the sourcing agent do to get that property to the next, to be finalized and
What
sold
do you
within.
mean by due diligence?
So due diligence, so again, back to student accommodation sourcing, there's certain things that you need to know. Is the property accredited with the university? Is the zoning in place? Are you allowed to do students, in that property? Is it compliant with the legislation? So all of those items, and how far is it from the university? So there's many things that you need to check to know whether it's a good property for a student house. So do you have those documents? Do you physically have those documents? Because it takes time and effort to go and request a zoning document from the municipality. So do you have the documents? Um, is everything in order? And even if things are not in order, what are the next 3 steps that needs to be done to get it in order? How long is it going to take? Who can do it for me? Is there someone in the area that understands? Is there someone that can manage this property for me? So it depends on how much really you, as the sourcing agent, um, make the life easier of the person that's going to buy it from you. The more you do, the more you can ask for what has been done. So if you just send me a link from Property 24 and it turns out that it's a great property and end up buying it, I'm not paying no more than 2,000 rands for that. And even that is a lot. So it's not, it's a cold lead. I did all the work. You just sent me a link. So, and but if in that specific instance where we got that property at 50%, all the documentation is in place, we knew exactly what was going to happen when, then you can definitely pay more. I think the most we actually ever paid was like 150,000 rands for a property for sourcing, which is a lot of money. So imagine that's like boom in one go. That's what you get just for showing somebody, um, the property, obviously, and doing all of that due diligence work up front.
Mm. So I've asked you a question where you are on the receiving side of the sourcing agent. So you are the investor and you are buying the property. Now
Mm.
I'm going to ask you a question where you are the sourcing agent, right? You're looking for the opportunities for the investors, and let's assume I am the investor in this case, right? Now, my first question is that obviously we have identified that some education is needed
Mm.
because you can't do all of these things. And especially if we are talking about student accommodation, it's a specialized area, and it really sounds like there's quite a bit that needs to go into it when you're talking about your due diligence. Now, how long does it actually take for you to find the right opportunity, for you to do this due diligence that you speak about, and for you to then be able to find the investor to buy it? Um, for you who's now doing it, so because you play in both sides, you play on the investor side where you receive deals also and then you buy them, and then you play also on the other side where you have other people that are sourcing deals for you and bringing these deals to you, and you also play in the space where you are the sourcing agent. Now, if all of these deals now come through to you, you're vetting all of these deals. At what point? How long does it take? What effort is required? I suppose I'm asking about effort, really, that is associated with you just finding that one deal and closing that one deal.
So I think it does take, um, especially in the beginning, it does take quite a bit of effort. So let me give you two scenarios, all right? So with student accommodation, I now know that every university is different, every municipality is different, the rules are different for every area, the bylaws are different, the accreditation requirements are different, and the way the universities work are different. So if I go to a new town a university that I've never worked with before, um, in terms of the rules on how close must the building be to the university, that's all kind of standard, right? But how do I know how many students can go into a property? How much will the university allow? Because I can easily say, oh, I think this place can take 20 students. Then the university comes out, they're like, no, sorry, you don't have enough bathrooms. Our requirements are different than Cape Town's requirements. So, by the way, you can only have 10. And there goes your numbers. And now it doesn't work anymore. And you will get a bad reputation with that investor so quickly because they trust you that what you've presented to them is going to work out. So you're going to spend a lot of time finding out, making the right connections with universities, um, understanding the accreditation rules, and getting to a team that can help you manage and whatever in the area. Okay, you're going to spend quite a bit of time on that. However, here's the secret. Every area has a formula. Okay. So as soon as you understand the formula of that area, it's like you can copy and paste. Okay. You can walk into a place. You don't even almost need to walk into the place. You look at it on Property 24. And I can right now immediately tell you in Belleville, in Parow, in Cape Town, um, I can just look at pictures on a property and I can tell you yes it will work or no it won't work. Um, because I know the rules, I know the formula,
Hmm.
which is really very simple, and it's almost it's like a yes no immediately I can tell you, and then it's quick, right? I think we bought one, two, three, four. We're busy with a fifth one now in Belleville, and the first one took me long. It took me very long just to realize that I want to do it. And then all the learnings happened. And now it's really like I'm not. It's copy paste, and we're just continuing like that, and getting more and more of the same because I know the formula works. So yeah, then it you're going to you still the deals are still good. You still qualify for that 150,000, but now you're just spending a lot less time on actually closing the deals and taking it out and giving proposals and the value to the investors. And you've got that credibility now as well to say, listen, here's a property. It's been running for 2 years. Here's the numbers. You can see everything that it's working, and we're just copying and pasting. And that just shortens your time frame to do things, but you still the property is still good. You can still get the good sourcing fees for it.
If anyone is to come through to you today and they say, look, Rita, when you were starting off, you know, you you were privileged that you had a community already, so you had good deals that you could sell off to other people. I'm just starting off. How can I get to these investors, and how can I also sell these deals for 150,000, for for 60,000, whatever the case is going to be. I mean, I've seen some deals on 5,000. I think the highest I've ever seen on a sourcing deal was about 580,000. So someone was selling that deal, and I remember this was very early on in when I started in property, and it was a development of sort that they put together, and they were selling it for 530 or 580,000. Then, and someone bought it, right? And and I'm now thinking when I look back, or now when I'm doing all of these deals with you guys, I'm thinking, I think people at many a times they say, "Oh no, I can't do this because I don't have the network. Oh, I can't do this because I don't have." Maybe let's talk about when we started. Without anybody. How did we start?
Well, I'm going to talk about myself here, but I think you were sort of the more the sourcing expert at the time, but in the beginning. But I mean, it's really just about um, talking to the people around you and explaining to them what you are doing, attending the training and connecting to the other people that's in the training that's very like-minded to what you're doing. um, and that's how teacher and I met, although I have a different story, but we have different stories. Let's start there. But
Every
we
relationship has two sides to it.
really exactly. But that's how we also connected in class, is to say that um, I had access to the funding. um, you had access to the deals, you were that sourcing agent, and you could explain to people this is what you do. So you need to connect with people, like-minded people, in training sessions, in networking sessions. On Facebook, there's communities that you can join, and as long as you present your deal in the right way, you can always be able to pitch that. And then obviously, I think people around you, you don't know unless you talk about it. You don't know if the person, your colleague that you're working with, maybe they would be interested in a property. Anybody that's looking to own and make money from property is a potential investor, and that could be anybody around you. If you have a job somewhere, could be that person, could be your uncle, could be your aunt, could be anybody really. And I think people forget that um, just because you don't talk to your family or your connections around you about money, and because right, when we grew up, like, who did you ever talk to about money? So you forget that I mean, they're just people. They also want to make extra money, and if you can explain to them how they can do it and simplify it for them, you just never know who you have in your circle, and who might be that next person that's going to do that property deal with you.
Yeah, 100%. So I'm going to spill the beans just now in terms of how best can you start, But before I do that, thanks very much for all of you guys that are tuning in from all different places, from Belcom to Durban to Johannesburg to Eswatini to East Rand to Soweto. All of you guys, I really appreciate you watching us right now. And by the way, this is Pass It On, where you can ask a question and me and Rita will be able to answer that within the next 5 minutes. That's what we focus on. So any question that you have, you can ask it right here and we'll be able to answer it. So yeah, this is your time to become the keyboard warrior and ask those questions or that question. We will entertain it in the next 5 minutes. So, like I did mention earlier on, the first time I heard about sourcing, I was literally in a class and I didn't know nothing about sourcing at all. And I listened and I listened and I listened and I was writing in my book. I was actually looking at my book today that I was writing about 6, 7 years ago. And I was like, I think I resonated with this option because at the time I was in debt with lots of money. I knew that the bank would not be able to give me money, but I also knew that I had some time with me. And now that I've just acquired this new skill, I can go out there and I can find properties. I looked at myself and I was like, what can hinder me from looking for opportunities? Really, nothing. It's my airtime that I need to utilize for me to get to these opportunities. And because now I've got the skill, I can go out. And immediately out of that class, I went out and I started looking for opportunities. And up until today, I haven't stopped looking for opportunities. Like literally every day, I'm on Property 24, Private 20, all of those websites that you can think about. And I have now also just built a community of people that now brings deals to me and say, TJ, what about this? Do you like this? No. Do you like this? Yes. Do you like this? Maybe not now. Do you like this? No, I'm not gonna buy in that area, but I might know someone else who buys in that area. And I didn't start off by knowing all of this. I also started from zero, ground zero. So whether you are here today and you are thinking, I'm trying to make money in property, but I can't go and buy properties out there for whatever reason. Well, we are offering you a class where you can come in and you can learn how it's done, right? So Rita, she's going to throw in the link, and the link will stay right on top, actually on the chat, and you can come in to learn. So there's an early bird. I think the price is on 299. That's like nothing, really, to come in and spend the day with us virtually, and you can learn how to do all this sourcing that we we're talking about in a systematic way. And who knows, if you take it seriously, like I did, you can potentially build a business also out of it. But you can as well also be able to sell opportunities to other people and you can make a bit of buck, right? So your 299, it can be a multiple fold in return only if you are going to obviously attend the class, apply what's going to be in the class, and yours truly will be running that class. So I am still waiting for your questions to come in. I am going to
And
go through to them just now.
I
But
also
whilst I
want to, oh, sorry. I also wanted to add that, what I'm also opening up now in student accommodation is that if you are out there specializing in sourcing for student accommodation, then you know, get in touch with me. I'll give you some information and you can make a little bit of extra money if we become the management agent of that property. So if you sell that property to an investor, and because of your introduction of us to that investor, we end up managing the property. We will give you almost like a sourcing or a placement fee for those students with us as well. So you can earn double now, for per student. So for every single student, so if it's 20, 30, 50 students, we will give you 250 rands per student that will come into our management, that will be in that house. So 50 students will get you another 25,000 rands. So think about that.
That's a good deal. That's a good deal right there. Not only are you getting sourcing money, but if you're getting sourcing money from a student accommodation, so you're finding a student accommodation, you can get sourcing money or sourcing fee. And on top of that, when my student house comes through to manage that, you get a bonimbo. I call it a bonimbo bonus, right? I like that. So Rita, I'm going to conclude here. Um, today people are not wanting to ask any questions, so that's great. Maybe you are here, you still thinking. That's okay. You can ask questions later, and we'll answer them still. Um, and maybe you're going to be watching this a little bit later, and we're no longer live. That's great too. You can still ask the questions, and we will be able to answer that. I want to ask the question that now that you run a sourcing business, you run a sourcing education business, and you also do student accommodation. And we've identified that obviously running or becoming a sourcing agent, you need a skill to do that. But can you just specialize being a sourcing agent for student accommodation? Is that profitable?
Yeah, I mean, definitely you can just do that. And like I said, with student accommodation, it's very easy. It's a formula. So if you know the formula for your area, you can specialize in that. And once you specialize in something, it just makes it easier because you know the rules and all that. And it's very profitable. Because it's not so difficult to make your rental numbers work with student accommodation than normal rental properties. So it's actually much easier, in my view, apart from as long as you have that due diligence checklist, it's actually much easier to make your numbers work with student accommodation. So, and I mean, the demand for student accommodation is so big out there that it's easier to explain that to investors once you know the area's demand and all that, and it's all well documented and in my book. But I really think that it's a wonderful opportunity, and right now I have a big problem in that I'm sitting with 1,300 signed leases for next year, and I only have 450 beds. Okay, I'm working on another 400 here in Cape Town for next year, but even that is not going to be enough. So, which is why I always say to people, I like to teach you how to do student accommodation. We like to teach you how to do sourcing for student accommodation because the demand is out there and you can fill up those houses so quickly. Um, it's a huge problem, and for me, having these students expecting to come and stay in a nice place, it's huge. So I've got what, it's May, end of May now. I've got 6 7 months to have all of those beds ready. So guys, you need to go and source for me, okay? So please come to the training so you can do it right. I don't want to think about your deal and whatever. I need to know that you've been through the training, and I know exactly what you're going to present to me. So I if we have that in place, I've got the leases. Let's make some magic.
Awesome stuff. It's been great hanging out with you, man, tonight. And I'm trusting that the people have gotten some value. If you have gotten some value, give us some thumbs up, like the videos, share the videos, also very important. And why do we ask of you to share the videos? It's because we are passing it on to you, right? And the question that we are asking of you is pass it on to the next people as well. So that, I mean, Rita and I, we didn't have this information before. It was passed on to us. So don't hold back on the information. Pass it on to the next person. Um, One question that comes through from Leander. Leander is asking the question, do you qualify to pay tax when you do sourcing? Do you want to answer that question? I'm not so sure what they mean there. Should you? I think the
Have to
question
pay
really
tax.
is, do you have to pay tax? And so, Leander, I'm gonna answer that question to you like this. All right. I'm gonna use a metaphor. Right. Metaphor and analogy, one of the two. When you go to the jungle, there's always going to be mosquitoes. So you need to deal with the mosquitoes. So yes, when you make an income, right? When you make an income, and I see a lot of celebs of late, they're in the newspapers and SARS is after them, right? They're saying they owe this millions, because they're not paying tax. So whatever the law dictates that when you have an income, you need to pay tax, right? There is ways which you can, is it evade or avoid? Which one is the
Avoid,
right one?
avoid. Evade is
Avoid.
illegal.
Okay, so there is ways to avoid tax, the legal way, and obviously you need to speak to a tax practitioner who can help you on setting up your business so that you don't pay too much tax, um, or even pay zero tax. It's possible, but you need a tax practitioner to educate you and to set up your structures so that you can avoid paying tax, not evade paying tax. You'll get in trouble sooner or later, right? SARS will knock on your door, and you don't want to do that when you have lots of money. Hey, it's been great hanging out with you. Thanks a lot for all of you who has been chatting with us on the comments. And if this is your first time, hey, this is what we do every Thursday. We are out here at the top of the hour at 8 o'clock. We spend some time. Sometimes it's just me and Rita. Sometimes it's just me. Sometimes we actually have a guest, someone who is doing exactly what we are doing, but on their own, somewhere out there. In the past, we've had some great people that have come out. I've got a couple of people that are coming up lined up in the next couple of weeks. So I'm excited around that. So, yeah, Rita, enjoy your weekend.
Weekend,
Adios.
not exactly yet, but okay. I'll start early. Bye.
Good guys. We'll see you later. We'll check you out on the next video.
Cheers.